Hello, I'm Jamie Cassels, President of the University of Victoria, and I'm sending out this message to everyone in the UVic community. The timing of this message struck me as appropriate. I've promised to give to the community frequent updates regarding the state of planning at UVic. And perhaps more importantly, I'm toying with the idea of my first homemade pandemic haircut later this week. So I thought I better get this video done in advance of that event. I hope you're well. I know that these are difficult times for all of us. We're worried about our families and our friends and loved ones. We're experiencing isolation, and we're concerned about the future. For myself, my wife and I have 3 kids, all at different places in their life journey, and all associated in one way or another to post-secondary institutions, and their world has been turned upside down. My father lives alone in Ontario, and I worry about him. My point is that everyone is affected by these current circumstances, and we need to support one another. I know that everyone is interested in and concerned about the state of affairs at the university. You've shared questions and issues with me and my colleagues about student support and research, teaching and learning, the state of campus operations and the budget. So I thought I'd provide a few reflections on those issues. We're all concerned for our students. We're concerned for their academic progress, and we're concerned for their mental and economic well-being. I want to thank everyone who has donated to the Student Emergency Bursary Fund. Your donations, along with the contribution of the UVic Alumni Association, the UVic Student Society, the university itself, and the provincial government, mean that fund is now well in excess of $500,000 to support our students. Additional good news out of Ottawa are the recently announced federal programs of income support for students who've been unable to obtain summer employment or who've lost co-op opportunities. On research, teaching, and learning, the good news is that the provincial health authorities have invited organizations to begin to think about plans for the next stage of managing through the COVID-19 crisis, and in a very careful and phased way, opening up a little bit from the restrictions that we've all been experiencing for the past several weeks. The bad news is that is not going to happen quickly, and it's not simply a return to business as usual. On research, I'm aware that many researchers have found that their programs are negatively affected by the restrictions around COVID-19, particularly those whose research involves on-campus and laboratory-based activities. The Vice President Research and the Research Working Group and I are actively considering ways in which we might gradually begin to open up some of those activities so that those researchers are able to recapture some of that lost momentum. And the VP Research has recently announced as well the establishment of a research recovery fund to provide a measure of financial support to those researchers whose programs have been most negatively affected by COVID-19 restrictions. As for learning and teaching, as I said, I think we can assume at this point that it will not simply be back to business as usual, even in the fall term. and the academic working group, along with the leadership in the provost's office and the academic leadership and faculty members across the university, are actively formulating different scenarios and different plans that will allow us to continue to deliver the highest quality and richest University of Victoria student learning experience possible. So you'll be hearing more about those plans as they come to fruition over the next several weeks. The budget is something that is under continuous construction. The variables are highly indeterminate at this point, although I think we can safely assume that the budget that was developed some months ago is going to require modifications. And indeed, we need to assume that there will be budget challenges. Already, our expenses are much higher than budgeted for a number of months ago because of the resources that we've needed to put in place to support the community, to help us maintain our momentum as a university during these tough times. And our revenues are much lower than they were budgeted for several months ago. Simply by way of example, on-campus services like student housing and food services are not nearly as active or producing the kind of revenue that they were assumed to produce. And more significantly, the issue of enrollments over the next 6 months to a year remains uncertain, as does the situation for our international students. So the budget is in constant revision. We're developing contingency plans. As I said, I think we do need to assume that there will be budget challenges, that some difficult decisions will have to be made that involve difficult trade-offs, and that we do need to be prepared to see that those trade-offs do have impacts right across the entire university and on each of us. That said, we're very actively working with both the federal and the provincial government to help them to understand what the financial impacts of COVID-19 are on universities, and to develop plans and programs that will help to mitigate those impacts. So along with the teams right across the university that are working to help us to maintain our momentum as a great university, my executive colleagues and I meet every day to work through these issues and to develop the best plans that we are able to maintain the kind of momentum that the University of Victoria has, and you can be assured that you will be hearing more from my executive colleagues over the next several weeks as those plans become even more concrete. So in the meantime, thank you for everything that you do. Stay tuned and stay healthy.